The crying you hear is coming from Cook's mother. The sentence much more severe than they expected.
If I had a rock, I would throw it at you right now. Stop pissing me off. Just sit down. I'll take care of it. I don't need your help.
No, I'm the public defender. I have a right to be here.
The following stories tell the tale of some of the most dramatic courtroom moments of all time. We have a young girl sent to prison for 20 years due to her part in a robbery, a public defender and a judge who got at it, 2 incarcerated young men who try to make a run for it, and that is just the beginning. What happens when a stalker violates a protective order and contacts his victim 22 times and then argues with the judge? Stay tuned to find out. This first story is set in Daytona Beach, Florida. It involves 18-year-old Keandra Cook, who has gotten herself into some trouble. Apparently, she used a dating app to set up a robbery that ended with another teen being shot. Luckily, the teen survived. Keandra was potentially facing life in prison, but took a plea deal. This would eliminate the conspiracy charge, but was still facing other charges, including attempted carjacking with a deadly weapon and felony battery. She entered a no contest plea and is now about to receive her sentence, but before that, the judge allowed Keandra the chance to come up to the stand and say a few words to the victim's family.
All right, come on up, Ms. Cook. You get to say the final word.
This is her chance to take responsibility or apologize for the harm she caused. But will she?
I just want to say that I'm sorry to the victim's mom that her son had been because I didn't even know he was communication like my boyfriend and his friends did threaten me to do this. I didn't even know what was going on until I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. I just want to say I asked her for forgiveness for second chance so I can get out and finish school and I can put my mama proud because I want to be her first child to bring home a high school diploma. And I just want to make my mama proud.
Now, as Keandra and her family members wait anxiously, it is time for the teen to hear her sentence. Nothing could have prepared the room for just how dramatic things are about to get.
Ms. Cook, you're before the court for sentencing. A couple of things going in your favor. One, you didn't hold the firearm during these episodes. The second is that the victim luckily survived. That being said, this was intentional. It was an orchestrated ambush, and you are a main part of that. And for that, I'm going to go ahead and adjudicate you guilty of all 3 charges, sentence you to 20 years in state prison.
The next thing you hear is immediate hysterics coming from Keandra's mother. These are screams of absolute anguish as she realizes her child will be locked up for the next 2 decades.
The crying you hear is coming from Cook's mother. The sentence much more severe than they expected.
As this mother screams and cries, Keandra looks back at her and begins to break down in tears herself.
It turns out that Cook and her mother's reactions were so intense because they believed the plea deal meant no prison time.
Due to the clear miscommunication that occurred in this case, the judge did allow Keandra the chance to enter a different plea. With the new deal, she was sentenced to only 11 years behind bars instead of 20. Still, it was probably far longer than she had originally been expecting. 17-year-old Jacob Miller of South Carolina set a fire in a bedroom where his 14-month-old baby brother was sleeping. The child died, and Jacob was charged with his murder.
Now 7K to set a fire in the bedroom where the child is in the crib sleeping. The burn pattern that goes from underneath that child towards the door of the bedroom that is caused by likely something. It's a significant burn pattern. As he described it, it could have been alcohol, it could have been something else that gets consumed by the fire. But a significant burn pattern shows that there is something significant and intentional.
He appeared highly emotional in court, where he was seen crying and at times praying.
As he walked away from the fire that he just lit in another room with a small baby, walk into the front room, light that fire, and then leave the residence standing outside watching it burn, till it becomes too much to go back.
The prosecutor painted Jacob as an emotionless, remorseless baby killer.
He has to take responsibility. So there's much more here than probable cause. So I'm asking the court to find probable cause on both charges in this case. All right. Thank you, Mr. Thompson.
So, just how much trouble is Jacob facing here? He's about to find out.
So therefore, I am going to find that there is probable cause to charge the individual that he found over for general session.
He dropped to the ground in complete agony. This decision by the judge meant that the case would go to trial. Jacob would later plead guilty to involuntary manslaughter and child endangerment. While he didn't deny that he started the fire, he said that it had been an accident and he never intended to kill his baby brother. He was sentenced to 15 years behind bars. In 2022, he was denied parole, so he remains behind bars. This next case is interesting because the real excitement is not between the defendant and the judge, but rather between the public defender and the judge.
Where public defender Andrew Weinstock and his client are appearing before Judge John Murphy, whose voice you hear.
Things are about to get real tense really fast.
Public defender, what do you want to do?
Have they filed?
They have.
I'm not waiving.
All right, what do you want to do?
What do you want to do? I'm not waiving.
It's not hard to pick up on the growing annoyance heard in the judge's voice, but the public defender doesn't seem close to backing down.
You want to set it for trial? Set it for trial.
The judge wants the defendant to waive his rights to a speedy trial due to the court having a backed up schedule. But Weinstock wasn't about to give in. This is where things started to reach a breaking point.
If I had
By
a
the
rock,
state.
I would throw it at you right now.
You know, this is
Stop pissing me off. Just sit down. I'll take care of it. I don't need your help.
No,
Sit
you know
down.
what? I'm the public defender. I have a right to be here, and I have a right to
I
stand
said
and represent
sit
my
down.
clients.
If you want to fight, let's go out back and I'll just beat
Let's
your
go.
ass.
If you thought the two were just egging each other on, you'd be wrong, because things continued to escalate.
They both head to the hallway behind the courtroom, just out of the view of the court's cameras. Believe it or not, they get into a physical altercation.
The judge re-entered the courtroom and continued, despite the defender not being present.
I will catch my breath eventually. Man, I'm an old man. Your choices, considering there's probably going to be a changeover in personnel, are setting it for trial June 9th, or if you were wanting to waive speedy, we would set it for July 15th.
The judge continued to be argumentative.
I would like to get it done as fast as possible.
That doesn't help me.
The judge was investigated for this, and it was determined that not only did he threaten counsel and get into a fight with him, but he also resumed his docket while the defendant didn't have a lawyer present. He was removed from his post permanently. This next case takes place in Washington. Tanner Jacobson was charged with reckless driving as well as driving with a suspended license. The other defendant is Cody Howard, who is facing charges that include second-degree burglary, trafficking of stolen property, and driving with a suspended license. He also failed to appear in court 2 different times. While the two were brought into court, they didn't appear willing to cooperate and wasted no time before making a run for it. The two took off, and Judge Buzzard waited no time before jumping up and chasing after them. Luckily, a witness was present and pointed him in the right direction. One of the men leaves a bright orange shoe behind. Neither escape artist was about to let their prison gear hold them back as they made a mad dash toward what they hoped would be freedom. It's not clear exactly what their full plan was going to be, just that they wanted to get out of the courtroom as fast as possible. But the judge presiding in this case was not about to allow this to happen under his watch, as he took off on foot after them, quickly closing the distance.
They've made it to the 3rd floor stairwell. And now to the 2nd, just 1 floor away from freedom. But Judge Buzzard is gaining some ground, especially on the one who lost his sandal. The judge tackles the lagging defendant just outside the exit to the building. 2 deputies catch up moments later and bring him back to a cell. The other defendants picked up just a few blocks away.
These two's escape efforts would turn out to do nothing for them, except get them into even further trouble than they already were in before. It's hard to imagine how they thought this was ever going to work out in their favor.
We were sitting there on the benches together and he's like, I'm gonna run.
I said, what am I doing? What did I just do? I gotta go with it now. There's nothing, I can't stop right here. There's nothing I can do now. I'm screwed.
I only get like 4 blocks and then I stopped. Like I just stopped on my own. I'm like, what am I doing right now? It was just a split second like decision. I don't even know why I did it. Like I would be out of here if I wouldn't have ran.
I didn't try to escape to get out. I tried to escape to get well, and I tried to do what I could, do what I could do to get my addiction.
It's a clear lesson to anybody who's incarcerated and considering trying to make a run for it. Don't do it. It's certainly not worth it, and it will just result in you having to spend more time behind bars and in more trouble than you were in the first place. The next case is against this man, Jacob Larson from Jackson, Michigan. Essentially, Jacob was harassing this woman who had no interest in speaking with him and wanted him to leave her alone. After he continued his unwanted advances, she got a restraining order against him. This meant that he was not allowed to contact her, but he did so anyway, many, many times. Now Jacob, despite having broken the restraining order that was previously filed in court, still has a lot to say for himself and is defending his actions.
All those messages were like, a lot of them were like last year. Let me ask, how many of them were after, I asked her, how many of them were after the day of the PPO? 22. I don't post on that one.
Jacob had violated the restraining order 22 times, and there's proof of it. It's not hard to see where we have a problem here. And yet, Jacob continues to try to defend his actions, even claiming that he doesn't go on Facebook that often. It's not hard to see why the judge is beginning to get more and more frustrated. He starts to call Jacob out regarding his violations, and he even compares Jacob to the antagonist in the famous movie Fatal Attraction, in which a deranged woman stalks a man and his family, despite him making it clear to her that he was no longer interested in any romantic connection. Even while he is making this connection, Jacob has the nerve to interrupt, saying that he wants to hear from the young woman directly that she had no interest in him. Let's just say that doesn't go over very well for him and eventually lands him in even deeper trouble with the already very annoyed judge.
It's like fatal attraction kind of stuff that I warned you about last time. I told you to just leave her alone. She was a classmate of yours. She apparently has no interest in seeing
I want her to tell me to leave her alone.
You know what? I told you to leave her alone. And apparently that didn't get through loud and clear. So today, you're going to jail for 3 days.
All Jacob had to do was simply leave the young woman alone, but he was unable to do that. And now he's going to be spending 3 days behind bars. This is just a warning from the judge, who makes it clear that he is not afraid to sentence him to a much longer sentence if he continues to violate orders by contacting this young girl whose only wish is to simply be left alone. As the judge continues to speak, Jacob continues to interrupt, even accusing the judge of being in cahoots with the young woman. This only makes the judge even angrier. This would probably be a good time for Jacob to keep his mouth closed and avoid getting himself into even deeper trouble. But he can't seem to do that and continues to insult the judge.
And the next time you violate it, you're going to jail. You and her are all you know what? You got a bad attitude. You had a bad attitude last time you were in court. Okay?
You and her are buddy-buddy. Y'all get along.
The judge makes it clear that he is not going to put up with being disrespected this way and tacks on an even longer sentence. Surely now Jacob will realize that he should just obey orders and follow the instructions of the court. It's not clear if he had a public defender at this point, but if he did, you can imagine how stressed out that lawyer must be as Jacob continued to mouth off.
45 days county jail. 93 days in the county jail. You want to go for a year? Try it right now. One more word out of you, it'll be a year of county.
Over Facebook. Really?
Over violations of my PPO and your conduct in the courtroom.
Can you believe the nerve of this guy? In a matter of only minutes, he's gone from having to spend only a few days behind bars to 93 days. The judge has made it clear that he is not messing around and won't continue to tolerate disrespect, but Jacob is not taking him seriously. Will the judge follow through with his threat of sending him to jail for a whole year? Let's see.
93 days to count.
The judge, clearly agitated by the defiant defendant, is sending him to jail.
I ain't never threatened.
Stand up. Come. Stand up. Yeah.
Buddy.
Stand up.
Yes, you heard that right. This individual is clearly lacking in basic self-preservation because he just cursed at the judge, and the judge isn't about to let him get away with it. It seems that he will have to follow through on his threat after all. Jacob seemingly can't believe his new fate. He continues to try to talk to the young woman seated on the other side of him, the woman who he wanted to talk to so badly that he's now facing extensive jail time.
You're going to jail for a year in the county. 365 days county jail.
Can't do it.
Appeal it.
I will.
Good. Put your hands behind your back
Tell me
now.
to leave you alone. Tell me to leave you alone. Tell me right now.
Put your hands behind your back. Put your hands behind your back. Take his ass right now.
The judge has had enough, and after taking off his suit jacket, he steps in to try to help the guard get Jacob under control. He seems very much willing to get his hands on this defendant, and after listening to this annoying past exchange, it's not hard to see why.
We'll make it 93 if you can think about it, all right? Four people. You know her. Well, so I know her. That's not in the community. Get to know you all too much. I'm a good person. That's all right. 93 days.
The judge, despite being clearly irritated, has softened his heart and taken back the 1-year sentence he previously set. But despite his mercy, Jacob continues to fight back. This next case takes place in Miami, Florida, with Judge Mindy Glazer presiding.
The one sleeping there, you can wake up too in the back row.
Where Judge Mindy Glazer's overseeing bond hearings.
I have a few announcements. I'm going to appoint the public defender to represent all defendants unless you tell me you have money to pay for a private lawyer or if you are hiring a private lawyer and one is here. Also, please let me know if you have served in the United States military or any of the reserves.
It seems like everything is going smoothly, just business as usual. Judge Glazer seems to be well in control of the court, but as we all know, these courtroom scenes can turn dramatic in a matter of mere minutes. And this could be what is about to happen here.
Over the next few hours, she'll see dozens of defendants.
You were arrested for second-degree murder.
As they step in,
I'm in the military, Your Honor.
You are?
And quickly step out.
These people are all just strangers to Judge Glazer until there is someone who catches her eye, someone that she recognizes from a long time ago, and she can barely believe he is standing before her now. This is 49-year-old Arthur Booth. He is a career criminal charged with burglary, grand theft, fleeing, and resisting charge.
Hi, Mr. Booth. How are you?
How you doing, ma'am? Okay, ma'am.
But is there more than what meets the eye with this criminal? Could he be someone who started as a good person but made poor decision after poor decision before eventually landing himself behind bars?
You have actually 3 arrest affidavits. Reckless driving, damage to property, leaving the scene of a crash with serious injury.
With no serious injury.
I'm sorry, no serious injury.
Okay.
After questioning, Judge Glazer explains the terms of his bond.
The bond on count 1 is $7,500.
But the judge notices something familiar about this defendant.
You can see as the judge takes a second glance at Mr. Booth. She's trying to remember where she knows him from, and it doesn't take long for her to place him.
Okay, Mr. Booth, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you go to Nautilus for middle school?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
That's right. The judge went to middle school with this defendant. It's then that Mr. Booth makes the connection too. While he initially smiles as he recognizes his former classmate, his emotions then shift as he seems to realize the reality of his situation. This woman, once his equal, is now the person who is dictating when he is going to get out of prison. He broke down in tears.
I'm sorry to see you there. I always wondered what happened to you, sir.
Oh my goodness.
This is the nicest kid in middle school.
Oh my goodness.
He was the best kid in middle school. I used to play football with him, all the kids, and look what has happened. I'm so sorry.
Oh my goodness.
Mr. Booth held his head in shame as he sobbed, likely looking back upon his life and considering how he got to this position.
The surprise reunion between the two former middle school classmates is almost too much for Booth to handle.
Oh my goodness.
Once a promising student, Booth fell into drug and gambling addictions that led him into a life of petty crime, resulting in multiple stays in prison.
Oh my goodness.
Good luck to you, sir.
The judge wished Mr. Booth well, encouraging him to turn his life around so that they would not have to meet this way ever again.
Hope you're able to come out of this okay and just lead a lawful life.
The reunion somberly concludes as Glazer sets bail at $43,000.
Okay. All right. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Booth is sent to prison for 10 months and then released into a treatment program.
This story does have a happy ending, as the two would meet up yet again when Mr. Booth was released from prison. He was in good spirits and determined to live a good life without getting into any more legal trouble. Alan Boston received a citation for speeding and possession of marijuana 2 months earlier. Judge Haywood Berry, who is presiding over the case, is told that Boston has a special request.
I spoke to Mr. Boston. He said he wants to represent himself in this case. I told him today was just an arraignment. It's either guilty, not guilty by day. To which he responded, I just want to plead my case to the court. So he didn't want to talk to me after that, so that's why she was.
Choosing to represent yourself in court without the help of a lawyer typically isn't the best way to get yourself out of trouble, but it is the option that Spencer is choosing to go with here. Will it work out well for him? Just wait and see.
Yes, sir. I think it's very unfair, the marijuana law here. I think we the people deserve better because marijuana is a very harmless drug and it's been around for ages, since the 80s and 90s.
I've heard that baloney all my life, so don't go any further on that.
Yes, sir.
I don't know whether it's good or bad. All I know is Tennessee still has it against the law.
It's very clear where the judge stands on this matter and that it is best for Spencer to just let it go. But will he?
I swear to uphold the laws, and I have to uphold the laws as a judge. It probably is unfair, but I can't change it. You've got to go see the legislature to get that change.
Yes, sir.
And if you get it changed,
Judge Berry quickly returns to the matter at hand.
Now, if you want to plead guilty, you can today. But if you want a trial, we can give you a trial on the officer's fee.
Spencer decides that he wants a trial to be set. The judge is fine with this and works with the other court employees to get this arranged. While they're doing this, Spencer decides to do the unthinkable, which is sure to be shocking for everyone present in the courtroom that day.
As he pulls out what appears to be a joint. No one seems to notice until, shockingly, he lights up.
Is this some sort of act of defiance, or has Spencer just completely forgotten where he is? Who would even imagine taking out a joint in court and smoking it right in front of the judge? How is the courtroom staff going to respond? It won't take long to find out, and safe to say, they are not happy.
And this time it's noticed immediately.
Hey, we the people deserve better.
Boston may have finally pleaded his case.
Hey, we the people deserve better.
But he's immediately taken away by the court officer.
What will the judge have to say after this incredible courtroom moment? Just wait.
And Judge Berry gets the final word. Slapping Boston with a disorderly conduct charge, as well as another charge of possession.
Let this be a lesson for everyone. If you do smoke pot, do not take it to court with you and light it up in front of the judge, because it's only going to get you into much deeper trouble and make you the laughing stock of the internet. Much to what is likely Spencer's disappointment, while Weed is now legal in much of the nation. It continues to be illegal in Tennessee as of 2023. In fact, you can even get slapped with a $2,500 fine and spend up to a year in jail if you're caught with it. So it doesn't seem as if Spencer's bold move made much of a difference.
Very dramatic day in court as a young man learned his fate. He beat his girlfriend's little boy to death because he wouldn't stop crying.
Who would be able to do something like this to a tiny, defenseless little kid? Teenager Dylan Shoemaker is who.
Teresa, it was intense at sentencing. The courtroom was packed with family and friends supporting the defendant, Dylan Shoemaker, and the victim's family. As soon as the case was called, Shoemaker walked into the courtroom and started crying, telling everyone how sorry he was.
Imagine looking at the mother of the child whom you have killed. What could you possibly say to her to make anything better? Dylan looked into the eyes of his former girlfriend and tried to apologize.
I didn't mean to kill Austin. Actually, I really didn't. I think I didn't mean to hurt him.
Dylan Shoemaker walked into a state Supreme Courtroom pleading his case, telling his victim's mother and the court he's remorseful for what he did. Shoemaker was sentenced Friday for beating 23-month-old Austin Smith last March. Before the sentence was handed down, Shoemaker and his defense attorney fought for the minimum sentence, 15 years to life.
Austin told the judge that he loved his victim despite killing him.
I loved him a lot. Austin Smith was completely defenseless. That's a given. But there were other dynamics at work there, including my client's inability to either control his anger or frustration and his inexperience in babysitting.
Based on his short life now, what is to say he won't do this again?
Well, we don't know that. I think it's completely unlikely. It was a situational, circumstantial thing.
But would the judge agree? Not so much.
He told the now 17-year-old that in his short life, he's caused so much despair to so many people. Bowler said he listened intently to Shoemaker's testimony during trial and called him a manipulator who minimizes his actions.
The record will show that you admitted that on July 23rd, 2013, in a phone call to your mother from the holding center, you stated, and I got a quote from the court reporter, "I am a 16-year-old blonde. Probably all I have to do is cry in front of the jury, and they're going to feel sorry for me."
But that certainly is not the case, as Dylan was ultimately sentenced to 25 years behind bars. So there we have it. Some crazy courtroom moments that you simply wouldn't be able to believe if you hadn't witnessed them without your own eyes. Thank goodness there is video footage to capture these incredible scenes. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to check out some of our other videos on the channel. Good night.